for
I've
sure.
seen enough in that realm to be a believer, but I just think that the minds, there are magicians, occultists who have written books like Lone Milo DeQuette. It's all inside your head. You just have no idea how big your head is. That's a weird, wordy title for a book. But the point is that consciousness is the primary thing. So there's all this kind of fluid play between consciousness and physical reality, and things like the placebo effect or magic and belief. The universe will sort of adjust to your consciousness or your universe, your observation.
Have you read the reality transurfing book?
Reality Transurfing. I'm familiar with it, but it's not totally fresh in my mind.
I totally recommend it to you. It's absolutely about this topic, and I'm gonna do a video on it soon. I just haven't finished the last volume. There are 5 volumes. But I've done a lot of exploring on consciousness. I've done the gateway tapes. I've also done a lot of psychedelics and deep meditation. I've reached very altered states of consciousness, and I've been fortunate enough to experience both forms of, let's say, how do you call it? An outer state. I don't want to call it an enlightened state because nobody can really define this. But I would say it's a state where you feel absolutely connected to anything else. And there are 2 states you can reach in your consciousness like that, especially through meditation or psychedelics. One of the states is when you feel as if you've become the whole universe and you feel everything else. And you forget that your body exists. And actually for a few moments or a few hours, you're out of your body completely, but you're completely conscious at the same time, more conscious than you've ever been during your entire life. And the other one is very scary. The other experience is very scary because your consciousness gets put back somewhere behind you and you can no longer control your body, and the entire universe goes into your body as if possessing you. And it starts exploring. You can feel what the universe feels when it's inside you, but you cannot act. You're an observer. You become the observer. Usually the universe is the observer and you're the one acting. You're the main protagonist in your story, in your universe, right? And the universe is just observing you, giving you these directions, helping you, or giving you some misfortunate events to build your character, your arc, let's say your hero protagonist arc.
Yes.
But when this happens, you become the observer and the universe goes into your place, into your shoes, and you feel like a child. She feels like a child when she's inside you. Starts touching the furniture. Oh, wow, this is amazing, feeling that firsthand. Because
really?
when you think about it, you yourself are your universe. You have billions, trillions, quadrillions, even I don't know how many cells in your body. Each cell is doing something on its own. You're not controlling those cells. You're not controlling even your organs. You're not controlling your heart. You cannot stop it. But when you even explore further, you have cells in your body that do their own thing. They have their own lives. Do they have consciousness? Maybe because they eat, they grow, they die, they replace each other. They form clusters. They form systems. They work together to achieve common goals. And within them, there are even other systems. So maybe like we exist in this universe, our cells exist the same way in us, or let's say it vice versa. We exist like cells in the universe, because the universe itself cannot explore itself. Can you explore yourself through these cells? No, they have to do it for you. So when you pinch with a needle your arm, the cells feel it, and eventually through your nerves, your brain receives that and is alerted that it hurts. And maybe the universe needs us to feel, because if we don't exist, we don't perceive it at the minor level, she would never be able to perceive what is happening down here, because it's so vast that it wouldn't know what's going on. And during one of my psychedelics experiences, one of the strongest ones, I took 9 grams of mushrooms.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and but I was very well prepared. I've done it before, not with 9 grams, but I prepared the room. I prepared special music for me, dimmed out the lights, lit some candles, meditated before that, hadn't eaten anything, cleaned before that, took a bath, cleansing rituals and everything. And because I know it's a journey and you have to take it seriously if you want to get a good effect out of it. It should be like a form of an occult ritual, let's say. Regardless of what you believe in it, it's something like that. If you want to explore your consciousness, you should take it seriously. And I did all of that, and my journey started. And at some point, I was not in my body anymore. I was traveling through the universe, and for a moment, I became a planet. And at this point, I don't know if you felt how when the ego breaks down, what that feeling is. But when it breaks down, you feel an immense joy throughout your whole body, as if thousands of orgasms go through your cells, through your spirit, through your soul. And at that point, I realized the universe created the ego. I've read extensive philosophy on Kant, Freud, well, psychoanalysis, but Kant especially studies, and Carl Jung as well. Carl Jung studies the ego, but whatever I've read thousands of pages on these topics. I never really understood what the ego is. You can hear someone has a big ego and you think that's an insult, or you can hear someone is egotistical, but a person does not really understand through reading what an ego is until they really feel what it is to destroy that ego for a moment. Because when you destroy the ego for a moment, you feel everything is connected, and you know, and you start to realize what our existence means and why we are here. And in this moment, the universe practically told me, I've created the ego. I've created the ego because I was afraid to be alone. And imagine if different types of consciousness didn't exist, separated. We all are one consciousness, but we're divided in, let's say, pockets. Pockets because these pockets are formed through the egos of individuals, let's say humans. Not only humans, everything that is alive holds some form of an ego, aside from plants. I believe plants don't have an ego. And that's because during one of my trips, I asked a question, how do plants feel? Why do they grow? Because in a previous trip of mine, I had this experience where I was asking questions to the subconscious, to the collective unconscious. And one of the questions was, if everyone can access it eventually, the Akashic records, the collective unconscious, call it as you want, if you can access limitless information through meditation and through losing your ego, then if the information itself is limited, and if the universe knows everything, then one person can become almighty, right? Then why hasn't that happened? Why is not one person ruling everything? And the universe practically told me, I don't know anything. I've forgotten everything. I do it automatically, like your heart pumps. Your heart is pumping, but you don't know how it's going on. And it's just happening. And then I realized it's us humans that want to put everything in laws. We want to describe absolutely everything with mathematics, with laws of physics. The universe itself, it's simply functioning. And it knows how to do it. And the second something happens, it forgets about it, because the only thing that exists is the present moment. Like we're saying, time isn't linear. It's not linear at all. And to the universe, time doesn't exist because it's all at once. And every single moment has its own memory, but every other moment doesn't have access to this memory. And that's why from this present moment, you cannot access limitless information. Even though some geniuses might have tapped into something, like, let's say, Einstein during his lucid dreaming experiences, or Tesla, but they also didn't have access to absolutely everything, obviously.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Really, really interesting stuff, man. I have similar thoughts about why the Akashic record hasn't been fully tapped, or really more of the authorities on this planet. It's similar to remote viewing, because remote viewing, as you've talked about, it seems like it's a real phenomenon where you can get real knowledge from it. So, of course, the system's going to suppress it, because otherwise nothing could really be secret. We'd all be porting our minds to the basement of the Vatican and going through the library or checking out what's going on in the deep, dark corners of the Pentagon. So clearly they say, hey, this stuff is bunk. It's not real, because you can't really ban it. So the best thing you can do is ridicule it. But I feel similarly about the Akashic record, about this field of information and knowledge. You can't get rid of it. You can't eradicate it, but you can keep people from tapping into it by just saying it's not possible. Psychedelics are illegal. We don't teach meditation in school.
That's not really true. Psychedelics, let's say, I believe in the US, you can find Amanita muscaria, for example, and make tea out of it. I don't believe that's illegal.
Fair. It's changing. It's changing. But historically, if there are people who realize the potential for this kind of stuff and they want to limit the average man's potential, you have to put, these are the kind of barriers you'd put in place. But I love this kind of stuff about the Akashic record, or extracting knowledge from the field, or even conversing with the universe. I have a couple of weird stories myself, but I think you've gone a lot deeper. I've never done 9 grams of mushrooms and really done it in a ritual way and facilitated communication with the universe. But are there other insights you've gotten from these same mechanisms that you find to be fascinating?
Oh yeah, well, I've actually, when I was beginning my journey with psychedelics, I will not say this, during my entire life, I've always been against narcotics in general. Like the common use of narcotics, let's say cocaine, even pot. I never smoked, although my friends smoke. But at some point I decided, I always knew that there is a very good use of psychedelics to explore your consciousness. I just wasn't brave enough during the years to actually try it. Then at some point, as I was exploring my consciousness through meditation, through a lot of other methods, I discovered something supernatural before even using psychedelics. It was during one of my meditations. I was with my girlfriend in a villa. We were celebrating some birthday with her friends. And at some point during the night, it was around 4 a.m. After the party, she went to sleep, and I was not tired at all, but everyone was already not so interesting to speak with, or the interesting people had left. So I went to bed as well, but I didn't want to sleep. So I went to meditate after a party. And I was meditating there in the bed next to her sitting. And after 40, 15 minutes, I was so deep into meditation that I felt an entity pass by. And I believe this entity was death itself, visualized to me, but it wasn't as a grim reaper. I just felt a very calm energy. It was calm, but very, very electric, very electric. And I woke her up. She put on the lights, turned on the lights, and she saw me, and my hair was electrified. All my hair was sticking up. She touched me, and there was an electric discharge from me, like that hit her. She was not hurt, but she screamed like, "What is going on?" We woke up the entire house, and then 1 hour, 2 hours later, I believe, no, maybe 3 hours later, because it was already, the sun was rising, we saw an ambulance come, and the owner of the villa had passed away. And the notion I had of death being around, it was confirmed to me like 3 hours later. And at the time I thought maybe I'm in some dream state, maybe I was dreaming or something. But in the morning, I told this to her before. We were both freaked out, like, what is going on? So after that happened, I decided to explore my consciousness much further. Not my consciousness, because it's a common consciousness, but consciousness in general, much further, because it has a lot of secrets there.
Can you believe it, people? A video clip and a peek into how that sweet THC sausage is made. For some people, I'm sure it's nice to put a face to the name, so I started making clips that are a little more YouTube friendly than the full show tends to be. Get the full show on any podcasting platform. I prefer to keep it audio only, so we have a more decentralized distribution for a controversial show, and also so I can edit out the ums and ahs and barking dogs and all the things that happen when a person records in their home environment. And then if you really like the show, you can sign up for THC Plus, and instead of 1 hour interviews, you get the full 2 hour interview for just $8. I think that's a better deal, more of a win-win than asking you to support the show by booking a therapy session or buying generic Viagra. It's getting weird out there, folks. So just go to the highersidechats.com or click the link at the top of any set of show notes, and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right? All right. The Higherside Chat Show. Quick call.